Winning your fantasy football league is about so much more than the players that you draft. It's about outsmarting your league mates, knowing what players to add on the waiver wire, knowing what players to stash on the waiver wire, to be patient with. A lot of these rookies take time to develop, but we see it year after year. These guys that come out of nowhere the second half of the year and win people leagues. Amon-Ra St. Brown did it his rookie season. Everyone was kind of writing him off, didn't know who he was, and then all of a sudden he went crazy, right? Those are the players that get people that trophy at the end of every year. We have one of those players in this list. If you watch any video this week, it's this one, just like the stash video last week. All right, let's start with Woody Marks, the rookie running back for the Houston Texans, who is on his way to breaking out, you guys. He's going to be the RB1 for Houston. It's not going to be Nick Chubb, who is pretty washed at this point. I think you need to be adding Woody immediately if he is available in your league. And his role has grown every single week, so much so in week 3 that he was pretty much sharing the backfield with Nick Chubb. 49% of the snaps for Woody, 51% of the snaps for Chubb, along with season highs in rush attempts, route participation, and target share. I think this is going to be his job sooner rather than later. And Woody is a good back. He's a do-it-all back that's especially strong in the receiving game. Marks had 83 receptions back in 2021 at Mississippi State. That is so elite. To put that into perspective, 83 receptions is more receptions than Ashton Jeanty had throughout his entire collegiate career. And he's also strong in pass protection, which will get him on the field, especially with this Houston offensive line looking so horrible. They can use as many blockers as they can get at this point. And I just think Woody is the better running back. Like, Nick Chubb is at the tail end of his career, and Marks is proving it as he's averaged a higher yards per carry than Chubb for the second straight week. This is a guy who needs to be stashed now. The breakout is coming. He's going to be expensive, right? Once he has a big week, which could be coming as early as week 4 against the Tennessee Titans, who have allowed the 4th most rushing yards per game this season. So get him now before he has a big game, and then before you have to spend your number 1 waiver claim on him or all your fab to get him, especially if you need a running back. He needs to be stashed on your bench because I think this Houston Texans offense gets better, and I think the RB1 job is going to be his very soon, and he's going to do a lot with it once he takes over. All right, moving on to our next guy, Blake Corum. I took a lot of slack for putting Corum on the stash list last week. I said Corum is a better running back than Kyren. I still believe that to be true. I'm sorry, I do. Kyren, though, he's the guy in this backfield. Sean McVay is going to continue to give him the majority of the snaps, as Corum only saw 25% of the snaps in week 3, but he did have a season high 8 rush attempts and turned that into 53 yards, 6.6 yards per carry for Blake, and he now has 14 carries on the year for 99 yards, 7.1 yards per carry. Kyren could only dream of doing that, but seriously, Corum, he deserves more opportunity at this point. Here's what I believe to be true. Blake looks like the more explosive back and runs with a different level. He moves differently than Kyren does, and let's look at the numbers here. Corum is 8th in offensive grade and 11th in rushing yards among all running backs according to PFF, and is tied for 12th among all running backs in rushes of 10 plus yards according to True Media. Let's break it down between Kyren and Blake. Both guys have 5 carries of 10 plus yards this year. Great, they're even, right? Not so much. Williams has 55 rush attempts and Corum has 14. Like, I don't think we need to say anything else, right? Like, the numbers speak for themselves, but the hope that McVay somehow turns this backfield into a 50-50 split is wishful thinking at this point. It seems unlikely, but if Kyren were to ever miss time to an injury, you're looking at a league winner. You instantly have a top 12, maybe top 10, top 5 running back the rest of the way. These are the guys that you want on your bench. If the starter goes down, Corum would be absolutely insane. As LA is one of the more friendly systems for running backs, it's also just a really good offense that can move the football. So I think Blake is by far the number 1 handcuff in all of fantasy football right now. He needs to be on every single one of your benches. Like, it's non-negotiable. Over Woody Marks, over, like, I would still take Bayshul Tootin, but after that, it's Blake Corum for me. All right, let's move on to our next guy, Luther Burden, the rookie receiver for the Chicago Bears, coming up the best game of his NFL career in week 3. He had 3 receptions, 101 yards, a touchdown, 19.8 fantasy points, saw a season high 31% route participation, and was the highest graded receiver in the NFL in week 3 with a 93 PFF rating. We know Burden, who was a 2nd round pick in this year's draft, has a ton of talent. He's really good. He's really explosive. He's a yak monster. If he can take over the wide receiver 3 role for Chicago sooner rather than later, he would have some flex appeal. You could potentially start him in fantasy. For right now, though, he's just a stash, but you want talented players on your bench that are on good offenses. Bears offense under Ben Johnson looks tremendous. Caleb Williams looks incredible so far this year. Burden, as we mentioned earlier, is a yak monster. He could be Ben Johnson's Amon-Ra St. Brown. He really could. We talk about this all the time on this channel. Bet on talent. Don't worry about depth charts. Don't worry about usage that early with rookies because it tends to evolve as the season goes on. The NFL moves fast. What if all of a sudden the Bears decide to trade DJ Moore, right? Then Burden would be a top 24 fantasy receiver for the rest of the season. It's stuff like that that can happen, right? So get the talented guy on your bench that has already flashed in his 3rd NFL game. Like, he's been impressive. He's only run 25 routes on the year, 25% target per route run rate, 4.12 yards per route run. Ben Johnson handpicked this guy. He loves this guy. He's going to work him into the offense as the season progresses. I would be stashing Burden on your bench now before the big time blow up happens. All right, moving on to our next guy, Ollie Gordon, the rookie running back for the Miami Dolphins, logged his highest rush attempt share of the season in week 3 at 43%, finished the game with 9 carries, 38 yards, found the end zone, 4.2 yards per carry, 9.8 fantasy points. Gordon also saw 100% of the snaps inside the 5-yard line, which means he could be the goal line back for Miami moving forward, which would be massive for his overall fantasy value. Ali only has 12 rush attempts on the year. I think this is a very good back who is sporting an 8% explosive run rate, 25% missed tackle rate, and 3.58 yards after contact per attempt. Remember, this is a guy in college who racked up over 2,000 total yards and 22 touchdowns in 2023, and then had a rocky 2024. Injuries, the offense was bad. His draft stock tanked. Miami got him in round 6, but this is a guy who is much better than that round 6 draft capital as far as I'm concerned. And remember, this is the same Miami Dolphins offense under Mike McDaniel that had a lot of success with 2 running backs. It was Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert only a couple years ago. I could see Gordon being much more involved as the weeks go on, especially because this Dolphins offense already looks terrible. They don't look like a good football team. They need to make some sort of change. Gordon has only been good for them. I would expect them to maybe focus more on the run with Tua also struggling. Like, Gordon, Achane is a really good 1-2 punch. They complement each other well. As Gordon is massive, he's like a mini Derrick Henry, though, not quite to King Henry status, but 6'2", 225, and he could hold some nice value as the season goes on, especially if he holds that goal line role for the Miami Dolphins. I think he does get more run too. I think they want him a part of this offense and would be an instant top 20 running back if something were to ever happen to Devon Achane. So be stashing Gordon on your bench and wait for a big game because I do think it's coming. All right, moving on to our next guy, Tyjae Spears, who could be this year's Chase Brown, where he wrecks the league the second half of the year. No one really sees it coming, takes over the RB1 job because Tony Pollard is just not that good. Obviously, we would need this Tennessee offense to elevate, to get better. They're not quite what the Bengals were last year, but this offense is a work in progress, especially with Cam Ward, first overall pick under center. I think this entire unit on offense does grow, does improve as the season progresses, and Spears is by far the Titans' best back, the most talented back, the most versatile back. As Tony Pollard, what has he done so far this year to really impress you over the first 3 weeks? As he's averaging 3.6 yards per carry, has 3 total receptions on the season. Like, don't forget what Tyjae Spears did at the end of last season. He was the RB5 in fantasy from weeks 15 to 17, averaging 21 fantasy points and 16 opportunities per game, 60% snap share. Only Jahmyr Gibbs, Jonathan Taylor, and Bijan Robinson scored more fantasy points than Spears did over that stretch. The only thing that's been hampering Spears from being a quality NFL running back is he can't stay on the football field. He always seems to get injured. He's dealing with an injury right now. Like, if this man can stay healthy, he can be really good this year, and he could be a big part of this Titans offense that needs playmakers on offense, that needs pass catchers in the receiving game to help out Cam Ward, because Calvin Ridley is sure not doing that this year. Spears could be a fun, explosive weapon, a security blanket for Ward out of the backfield. As we know, Tyjae is an elite, electric receiving back. This is a guy who earned 70 targets his rookie year. He's really strong at making defenders miss, hard to bring down. He avoided 1.5 tackles per game on receptions in 2024. That was the best mark among running backs. I would be stashing Spears, especially if you have an IR spot. It doesn't affect you at all. Throw him on the IR spot, wait for him to get healthy, and then I do think he has a big role for this Tennessee Titans offense once he returns. All right, next man up is Torrey Horton, the rookie receiver for the Seattle Seahawks. I'm recording this video while Thursday Night Football is going on, so I don't really know how Horton is doing. I do understand that once he plays, you're not going to be able to pick him up tomorrow, but hopefully Torrey is already on your bench or maybe in your flex tonight, because I think he's going to be really good. I think he's a superstar in the making. I think he's going to be really special in this league. He has 2 straight games of scoring a receiving touchdown. That doesn't even count that 95-yard punt return that he took to the house in week 3. That was super impressive and was on the field a ton last week, as he saw 72% of snaps before Seattle pulled their starters at the beginning of the 4th quarter. And you just want as many pieces of this Seattle Seahawks offense that you can get, because it is a really fun offense this year. It's a really explosive team. Sam Darnold looks great. Clint Kubiak is a brilliant play caller. I think he's one of the best in the league, to be honest with you. And Horton's role is only going to continue to grow. So why would you not want to be stashing a guy like this who's already flashed through the first 3 games of his NFL career, who's competing for more opportunities for more playing time with Cooper Kupp, who's an older receiver that's proved to us the last couple of years that he's not only injury prone, but he's cooked at this point. And I think Torrey is going to see more work on this explosive offense as the season goes on. And this is a guy who fell to the 5th round in the NFL draft because he got hurt his final year. But if you look back at his numbers, 2023, he had 96 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 8 touchdowns. This guy is a freak athlete who scored a 9.3 relative athletic score at the combine, which ranks 66th out of 3,816 wide receivers from 1987 to 2025. This is a very special player who I think could be a league winner down the stretch. Clint Kubiak said a couple days ago in an interview that he reminds him of Justin Jefferson. Like, do what you want with that information, but I think he needs to be added in all formats. I think he's going to come on the second half of the year, whether it's because Cooper Kupp gets hurt or whether he gets phased out of this offense. I don't know what happens. All I know is that Horton's role is going to grow, and I think he's going to be really good the back half of the year. He could potentially lead you to a fantasy football championship. All right, let's move on to some other strong stashes that I really like that I think are worth a look at. You could be adding them to your bench right now. Kyle Monangai, the rookie running back for the Chicago Bears, just because DeAndre Swift is just not good at football at this point. Swift is also always banged up, dealing with a hamstring, or it's always a new injury with Swift. So if Ben Johnson decides to give Kyle more run, I think he could be serviceable. Braylon Allen for the Jets, only because I have a weird spidey sense that Breece Hall is going to get traded at some point. He's in a contract year. He hasn't really played that great outside of week 1. They seem like they love Braylon Allen. Like, if they can get a 3rd-round pick or something for Breece, I could see them doing that at the deadline. And I would want the RB1 on a run-heavy Jets team. I think Allen is a really good player. Same thing goes for Alvin Kamara, who's another guy on a really bad Saints offense that could get traded to a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who really need a running back. So I'd be stashing Kendre Miller. Again, like, he's not a desperate stash, but if you have a huge bench and you're looking for a high upside running back, that would be really good if Alvin was not there. Really like Kendre Miller. The running back situation in Washington, Jeremy McNichols, Chris Rodriguez. We don't really know what's going to happen with Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. He's banged up. One of these running backs is going to emerge, and I want that guy, because if you can get the RB1 on a good Washington Commanders offense, that could be great for fantasy. I also wouldn't mind adding Caleb Johnson. You can get him for free right now. No one wants Johnson on the roster. I don't even know if Pittsburgh does, but he could turn it around. I really liked his tape in college. And then lastly, Oronde Gadsden, the rookie tight end for the Chargers. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right, but he flashed in his first appearance last week. He looked really good. So if you need a tight end, he is worth an ad as well. That's all I have for you guys today. I really appreciate all of you, all of your support. Let's go win week 4, and I'll see you in the next one.